In a library scenario, you can experiment with Parallel Scan in Amazon DynamoDB to efficiently retrieve large amounts of data from your database table. Parallel Scan allows you to divide a large scan operation into multiple segments that can be processed concurrently, potentially reducing the overall scan time. Here's how you can experiment with Parallel Scan for a library scenario. Identify the use case. Determine the specific use case in your library scenario where you need to retrieve a large amount of data. For example, you may want to retrieve all books published in a certain year or books belonging to a specific genre. Create a DynamoDB table. If you haven't already, create a DynamoDB table to store your library data. Define the appropriate partition key and sort key based on your access patterns. Generate sample data. Populate your DynamoDB table with sample data representing books in your library. Include a sufficient number of records to simulate a large dataset for testing Parallel Scan. Experiment with Parallel Scan parameters. Use the DynamoDB SDK or AWS Management Console to perform Parallel Scan operations on your table. Experiment with different parameters such as the segment count and segment index to divide the scan operation into multiple segments. Measure performance. Monitor the performance of Parallel Scan operations, including the total scan time and the time taken for each segment. Compare the performance of Parallel Scan with traditional scan operations to assess the benefits of parallelization. Optimize scan configuration. Fine-tune the parameters of Parallel Scan based on your experimentation results. Adjust the segment count, segment size, and other parameters to optimize performance and minimize scan time. Handle throttling and rate limiting. Pay attention to any throttling or rate limiting that may occur during Parallel Scan operations. Implement retry logic and back-off strategies to handle throttling errors and ensure smooth operation. Evaluate cost implications. Consider the cost implications of Parallel Scan operations, especially if you're using provisioned throughput. Monitor the consumed read capacity units, RCUs, and adjust provision capacity as needed to optimize costs. Scale for production. Once you've validated the effectiveness of Parallel Scan in your experimentation, consider integrating it into your production environment. Ensure that your application architecture and infrastructure can support Parallel Scan at scale. Continuously monitor and iterate. Monitor the performance of Parallel Scan in production and make iterative improvements as needed. Continuously optimize your scan configuration and adjust parameters based on real-world usage patterns and performance metrics. By experimenting with Parallel Scan for your library scenario, you can leverage the scalability and efficiency of DynamoDB to retrieve large datasets more quickly and cost-effectively.